Welcome back to the deep dive. If there's one thing that defines this decade, it's that feeling of vertigo,
Hmm.
that sense that technology is just accelerating way faster than our ability to understand what it all means geopolitically. We're swimming in data, drowning in press releases.
It's the ultimate information paradox, isn't it? We've
Mhm.
never had more information, but it's never been harder to figure out what's actually strategic, what's urgent.
Okay, let's unpack this because today we are doing a crucial deep dive into a topic that should be top of mind for everyone, and that is sovereign AI.
And our source for this is Dr. Mark Nasila's 2025 book, Mastering Sovereign Artificial Intelligence. It is, frankly, an urgent piece of analysis.
It really is. The book just cuts straight to the chase with this very uncomfortable premise.
And that's our mission today, to really grapple with his central warning, which is, if countries fail to build their own local AI capacity, they risk becoming, and this is his term, digital colonies.
That is such a loaded term, and it's the hook that really grabbed me. Because he's not being theoretical here. He redefines data not as some, abstract thing,
Right.
but as a strategic national resource, as critical as oil or minerals or water.
And the warning is stark. He says that exporting your raw data and then relying on somebody else to process it for intelligence, that's a direct path to losing sovereignty.
So for you listening, this is about understanding the gravity of that choice. It's the difference between just using foreign AI tools, which, let's be honest, everyone does.
Of course, there are huge short-term gains.
Exactly. But it's the difference between that and becoming what Nasila calls a data nation, where your AI is developed locally, governed ethically, and aligned with your own laws and your own culture.
I think to really get it, you have to start with the historical context. Because the shift in global power he describes it's fundamental.
Right. For what, 150 years, global power was all about control over physical things, factories, shipping lanes.
Energy sources, most critically. Those were the engines of wealth in the industrial era.
But Nasila argues that those power centers have just fundamentally shifted. Today, all that leverage, it sits with the people who own the infrastructure.
The data pipelines, the massive computing power, and, crucially, the big proprietary models that interpret everything.
And if you look at who owns that infrastructure, the cloud giants, the model builders, it's a very small club.
And it's almost entirely headquartered in the global north. They're the new backbone of this digital empire.
Which puts other nations, particularly in the global south, in a really precarious position.
The book highlights how African states, big banks, telcos, by constantly importing foreign AI and exporting their raw data, they risk becoming, as he puts it, long-term tenants in someone else's digital property.
The tenant analogy is powerful, but let's push on that a little. Because being a tenant means you pay rent, sure, but you get access to a fully functioning building right away. Isn't there a huge short-term benefit to just using these incredibly efficient foreign models?
Oh, absolutely. And that is the central trade-off. Nasila is very clear about that. The short-term efficiency is a profound long-term vulnerability.
Oh, so.
Well, the problem with being a tenant is you don't control the rules. You don't set the rent for the future. You don't control what new surveillance systems get installed. Yeah. If your entire national economy relies on that foreign infrastructure, your options become very, very limited.
It's economic history repeating itself, isn't it?
Precisely. The book draws a very stark parallel there. For decades, developing nations exported raw materials. Cotton, iron ore, you name it.
Only to import the finished, expensive, high-value products later on.
Exactly. And now the raw material is data, and the finished product is intelligence, applied decision-making. The value and the control is lost in transit. You're basically importing your own intelligence, but it's been packaged and priced by someone else.
So, okay, if that's the problem, the strategic dependency, the solution is sovereign AI. But we have to clarify what that actually means. Because I think for a lot of people, you hear that phrase and you just think data localization. Just keep the servers inside the borders.
And that's part of it, but it's so much more comprehensive. This is where it gets really interesting. Nasila defines sovereignty as a multidimensional challenge.
Okay, let's break those down because this is where the policy really gets serious.
Yeah.
The first dimension is the physical foundation, the technical side.
Right. This means physical independence. You have to have your own resilient data centers, national connectivity, and the actual expensive computing power. the GPUs.
And you need the world-class cybersecurity to defend it all.
You do.
We probably shouldn't just gloss over that, though. I mean, the technical hurdles for global South nations here are immense. GPUs are strategic, they're costly, they're subject to export controls.
And they need massive, reliable power grids and cooling, which is a whole other challenge in hotter climates. It's a colossal national investment.
So it starts with energy and infrastructure policy, not just software.
It has to. But here's the key. Even if you solve all that, even if you build your own data centers, you're still not sovereign if you rely on foreign models to process the data.
And that brings us to the second dimension.
The legal, ethical, and cultural control. This, for me, is the part that gives the book its real weight.
It's about control over the values that are embedded in the system.
Yes. The ability to govern how data is used and to encode your local legal and cultural frameworks into the AI.
Because AI systems are not neutral mirrors of reality.
Not at all. They are trained on data, and that data is soaked in the cultural assumptions and the linguistic nuances of wherever it came from.
So a system trained on, say, primarily Western data might completely fail to grasp the context of a South African or a Nigerian society.
It could fail, or it could just reinforce biases that are completely alien to that context.
Yeah.
So sovereign AI is about the right to encode your own norms into the systems that are making decisions about your citizens' lives.
If you can't audit or modify the models yourself, you've basically got a local server but a foreign brain.
That's the perfect way to put it. Local server, foreign brain.
That is a pertinent takeaway. Okay, let's shift from the definition to the practical side, especially for business leaders. Nasila introduces this concept of the AI factory.
And it's not just a tech term. It's a deep organizational shift.
Away from treating AI as these one-off expensive projects.
Exactly. It moves you away from, let's build one fraud model this year, to treating intelligence as a systematic, industrialized process.
So what is an AI factory in his definition?
It's a full operating model. Think of it like a dedicated assembly line made of processes, platforms, and teams. And its only job is to turn raw data into decisions efficiently and repeatedly.
So ingesting data, training models, deploying them, monitoring them.
And then constantly retraining them in real time. It's applying the principles of modern manufacturing to digital intelligence. It's about repeatability and scale.
And that manufacturing frame is key, because it forces boards to think about their supply chain.
And Nasila's warning to organizations is blunt. If you just plug into foreign models for a short-term win, you are deepening your strategic dependency.
Which means you might get, say, faster customer service today.
But you lose the fundamental ability to pivot tomorrow. You become completely beholden to an overseas vendor for every innovation, every update.
So if a local regulator suddenly changes the rules on, say, lending fairness,
you're stuck waiting. You're dependent on a vendor who might prioritize their bigger markets in North America or Europe first. Your local needs become an afterthought.
That's a huge constraint on strategic agility. It means boards have to stop asking, are we using AI, and start asking harder questions.
Much harder questions.
Yeah.
Like, where is our most sensitive data actually stored? Who controls the models making decisions about our customers? And most importantly, do we have the local skills, the AI factory, to challenge, audit, and modify those decisions ourselves?
Without the factory, the answer is always no.
Oh.
Let's scale this up to the macro level, the state itself. If this is the foundation for future power, what does this demand from policymakers?
The implications are they're existential. The book argues AI can't be a side project delegated to some small ministry anymore.
It has to be central.
It's now part of the basic, non-negotiable toolkit of modern sovereignty, just as vital as securing your borders or having an energy policy.
So decisions made today, like who you sign your public cloud contracts with, or whether you enforce data localization, those aren't just IT decisions.
They're foundational policy choices that will shape your country's room for maneuver for the next 50 years.
But this is where we have to bring in the challenge, right? The institutional hurdles.
Yes, and Nasila acknowledges them. This vision is hugely ambitious. But the reality in many states is intense fiscal pressure, huge skill shortages, and, corruption.
So the political will might be there, but the institutional capacity just isn't.
And the book uses the sovereign AI concept to expose that gap. It shows that the rhetoric around digital transformation is cheap.
But the hard work of building regulatory bodies, training engineers, protecting public investment from graft, that's the real challenge.
It's incredibly difficult. And if you can't overcome those weaknesses, sovereignty will just remain an illusion, an idea.
So it's a governance challenge, first and foremost. Okay, let's bring this all the way back down to the personal level for the listener.
This is where the abstract really hits home. For parents, for educators, I mean, think about the influence AI already has. It's making huge life decisions.
Who gets a loan? Who gets flagged for a job interview?
What medical care gets suggested? And when those systems start shaping the trajectory of your children's lives, the question of whose values are inside that black box becomes deeply personal.
Urgently personal.
Exactly. If the algorithms governing education or credit are coded somewhere else by people with different priorities, then the future our kids inherit won't reflect our own values.
So sovereign AI isn't just about economic destiny. It's an ethical imperative to make sure the future is being coded locally.
It's asking, do we want our children's opportunities shaped by algorithms optimized for Silicon Valley, or for the challenges and strengths of our own communities?
So what does this all mean? The book, Mastering Sovereign Artificial Intelligence, really presents a stark choice to leaders everywhere, but especially in the global south.
A foundational choice.
Will nations keep exporting their most valuable raw asset, their data, and importing the finished intelligence? Or will they commit to the difficult, expensive, but essential path of building the capability to shape AI on their own terms?
The path of building that factory is immense, and as we said, it's probably more complex than any single book can solve. But the core message is just undeniably compelling. It reframes dependency as a direct threat.
And maybe that can be our final provocative thought for you today. If this sovereignty dimension of AI is ignored, if the easy short-term fix is always the one that's chosen, we might just wake up one day to find that the key decisions about our economies, our social priorities, and even the opportunities available to our children are being made in distant data centers that we don't see, we don't control, and we don't understand.
And that, ultimately, is the true hidden cost of becoming a digital colony.